Republicans in Virginia are trying a whole new approach to keeping their seats in Congress. Because Republican PACs in Virginia are sending mailers to black voters with Klan imagery invoking Jim Crow and the civil rights movement to convince them to vote against a redistricting referendum that would protect black representation. And we're all going to see how effective it was because the referendum is just around the corner. Early voting has already started. April 21st is the day that it goes down. And the referendum, it's going to decide whether the state will redraw its congressional district maps. If it passes, it would create 10 districts whose voters favored Kamala Harris in 2024 and one that favored Trump. It would also ensure that Virginia's 2 black representatives keep their seats. Bipartisan maps would then be redrawn in 2030. And with all this, the Republicans have sued, claiming that the new maps would disenfranchise rural voters by tying them to liberal districts. The stakes, they're huge and straightforward. This referendum, it could lock in a significant Democratic advantage in Virginia's congressional delegation heading into the midterms. Right, and that it then brings us to the mailers. Last month, Democracy and Justice, which is actually a Republican-aligned political action committee led by former state delegate A.C. Cordoza, sent out mailers to black voters that took things to a completely different level. The mailers use Klan imagery and say, our ancestors fought to represent us. Now, Richmond politicians are trying to take our districts away. Just like Jim Crow, they want to silence your voice. And then they also actually used old statements from Governor Spanberger and Barack Obama to suggest that both oppose the referendum.
It tells you that they're desperate. They're desperate to try to confuse individuals. All the deceitful lies and propaganda that they're publishing. I know President Obama cannot be pleased about this.
So with all this, you had Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones saying these ads deliberately exploit the history of Jim Crow and the civil rights movement to mislead black voters and suppress participation. Though Cordoza defended the mailers, saying if Democrats don't like what the mailer represents, they should not be doing the actions that the mailer represents, period. They're having a hard time dealing with it because it reflects upon them. You also had the chairman of the Virginia Republican Party, Jeff Ryer, denying seeing the mailers or having any involvement with democracy and justice, but also he defended the use of Obama and Spanberger's quotes, saying they were against gerrymandering before they were for it. Now, to be fair, Ryer has a point that Democrats have not always supported redistricting, and the referendum ballot language, it only asks voters if they want to draw new maps to, quote, restore fairness, which critics say understates what's actually happening. But of course, the broader context here matters. Republicans in states like North Carolina, Missouri, and Texas, they've been aggressively gerrymandering for years. Virginia's referendum, it's a response to that. Democrats are using the same tools that Republicans have wielded across the map. And in fact, it was only after Trump's administration pushed new redistricting efforts that figures like Obama came around to supporting it in blue states. Trump literally called up Abbott in Texas and was like, give me more seats, and he did. That's why we saw California and others, including Virginia, making the move. It was a response, and actually now you have officials asking Obama to visit Virginia to make his current position very, very clear. Right, and that is, Spanberger has been very direct, saying, I have made it very clear that I support a yes vote. There are 7-figure ad buys with my face direct to camera encouraging people to vote yes. Right, and a big part of why Democrats are concerned is that the polling on this is very close. Well, polls show that 79% of black voters and 72% of voters overall understand that the redistricting would benefit Democrats. Only 52% of voters overall support it. And so with a margin that narrow, misleading mailers targeting communities that are expected to most likely support the referendum, it could absolutely tip the scales. So that's why you've got folks like Representative Robert C. Scott saying the problem with misinformation is if you don't respond to it, people will believe it. So we got to spend time responding to this nonsense when we should be out campaigning. Well, Democrats, they've raised nearly $50 million for their efforts. Republicans, they're seeing more cash flow on their side as well. And the money being spent debunking propaganda money, it's not being spent on turnout. And again, a thing that we always have to come back to because, there's so much happening. Our memories can only stand so much. This is all happening because Trump wants more seats. I mean, Trump has made his position on redistricting clear. It is something that he is owed.
It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide. And I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that.
I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
Right, entitled, gimme. That's his framing. Not that the voters deserve better representation. We're entitled to more seats. When you look at the polling, yeah, of course he's trying to pick up seats wherever he can. He's one of the most unpopular presidents we've ever had, especially this early into his second administration. It's also very likely why he's trying to kill mail-in voting, because he's scared, and also he has that hunger and appetite for getting power however he can. So now, while all this is playing out, you've got the NAACP holding a town hall in Virginia to help voters understand all the misinformation these political ads. We're gonna have to put our eyes on April 21st to see how this goes down. It was already expected to be a tight race. Does the misinformation tip the scales?